Coach, thanks so much for being here and helping out today. Really appreciate it. I
Sure.
thought maybe we could just get started. I know you have an extensive teaching and coaching background. Can you kind of just fill us in on your career in golf?
Yeah, sure. So I'm a PGA professional. I've worked at a bunch of different clubs in different capacities, from teaching professional to head professional to instructor. And my background is primarily in instruction, and have been coaching for about 8 or 9 years, collegiate coaching. And it's a great way to combine a lot of my skills and kind of my strengths, to provide the players with a lot of the knowledge they're looking for. And it's great to be around an academic environment like Boston College.
Definitely. Awesome. Um, First question, something that every player, every family is interested in. You're getting thousands of emails every year. What can players be doing to really differentiate themselves and earn one of those two or three spots you have available every year?
Yeah, so well, let's start with how many spots are available. It's typically about two, because we want to keep our roster sizes at about eight. Um, Both myself and my assistant, we coach both men and women. So I've had roster sizes that have been 12 guys, and it's a lot to handle when you have two teams. You might have eight women and 12 guys. That's 20 players. That's just a lot for two coaches. So first off, we're probably primarily recruiting one or two players per year. Uh, Basically, we're looking for the obvious things up front. For Boston College, it's high academics, and obviously there have to be some proven, you know, competitive background in tournament play and playing on, a regional to national level. It's There are some sleeper recruits that we find here in New England, especially for the men's team, that play primarily in New England, and we get to know those kids because we see them so much that you know they don't have the opportunities to play in some of the more kind of national or the AJGAs that are more regional. So, but we're looking for obviously a low stroke average, the high academics, and basically when coaches are on the recruiting trail and scouting, we're looking at character. We're looking at how does that player fare out there in, it might be testy conditions. It might be, when they're playing at their worst, when they're playing at the best. What kind of character do they actually have? And would they fit the culture of the golf team here at Boston College, whether it be the men's team or the women's team? And it's that's a big thing that I'm looking for, but I know a lot of coaches are looking for. It's the strength of character of the individual player, because all coaches receive, like you said, tons of emails daily that have players of strong calibers or strong, maybe strong academic skill sets. It's combining those three realms together: the academics, the athletics, and then kind of the character piece that really, that's what we're looking for.
Okay, that sounds great. Um, I on your roster, I saw that you do have a decent amount of players from the Northeast. Do you find that players from up in this area dealing with pretty miserable weather conditions for a couple months every year, maybe they have a bit of grit to their game and it holds up when you guys do get into late October and the golf season?
There's definitely something to be said with a player that comes out of New England or the northeastern area or the northern sections of the U.S. that know how to play in rainy and cold conditions, that can wear layers of garments and be able to perform and sub 40 weather, versus the southern player that's not used to having anything but a golf shirt on. So the men's team, there are a bunch of players that are primarily they're from New England. The women's team is a little bit different. I have a couple players. I have three players from California, one from Florida. I have, and two from New England right now. I have one coming in from the Philippines, and the other one also is from California. So the women's is a little bit different than the men's, but the I can tell you the California kid will learn how to play golf in the conditions, and it starts with practicing in it and acclimating to it, and that's something that those junior golfers can do is they can put themselves out on a limb and playing events that are in different areas of the country that might not be like playing in the kind of the Southern California kind of weather that's in a dome, like it's mild, good weather, and maybe not windy at times, and so it's definitely what coaches look at the sites that they play, that the tournaments are held, and obviously everything that goes with it, the length of the golf course, the strength of the field, and all those things. But yeah, New England players, they're the guys are going to typically fare better because they understand what it takes to be productive in a down season, because there are months that we're practicing indoors, we're putting on synthetic putting greens and hitting balls and only seeing, it might be 100 yards of ball flight that we're hitting in what we call our bubble, or it might be literally 30 feet of ball flight where we're working with video analysis, or some sort of launch monitor, flight scope or TrackMan, but it takes a certain player to understand how to be productive without being out on a golf course and on green grass. And it's something that can be learned, but a player that comes to Boston College or to a northeastern school and has those capacities is gonna basically have probably a much more successful um, understanding of how to be a student athlete on kind of the higher collegiate levels.
Yeah, it sounds like you guys do have a decent amount of a good setup for a wintertime facility. Um, what does that look like for you guys? Are they still getting to practice, 3, 4, or 5 times a week, or is it more fitness in the off season maybe?
We have so the NCAA, as a former student athlete yourself, it's limited. As far as coaching time to player time, 144 days. Basically, for a lot of the New England schools, especially for Boston College, the way I set it up is there's basically 60 days in the fall. So that's September and October. There's a little bit of downtime in November and early December before the student athletes go on break, where there's 8 hours of allowable time per the NCAA. Those hours are quantified with a lot of strength training. There is some skill training as well, but it gives the golf student athletes the ability to be students and, number one, catch up on their studies, their academics, and get ahead before the testing or exam periods come. And number two, maybe have a little bit of a social life, and enjoy what it is to be a student and not be on the road and constantly on the go. When we get back after winter break in January, we start right up and we practice. What we have here is like I said, we bubble over our stadium with a seven-story dome, and we practice in there a few days a week for a couple hours each session. And I contract with an indoor center that has launch monitor, simulator, video analysis, multiple bays with that, a large putting green, bunkers, basically a pretty good short game area. And we travel there and practice there a few days a week as well. So we don't quite the 20-hour maximum per week that's allowable per the NCAA. We get close to it in the off season. Excuse me, in the winter season, which is the primary season for college golf. But there's also the chance we might have a mild winter up here, and it hasn't been the last couple. But 4 winters ago, the men's team was out playing in late January, and the women's team was playing in early February outside. So we're fortunate to have our home course has 27 holes, and they keep 9 of those holes open with pins in the greens, and if there isn't snow covering the ground, or even if there is, you can go out and play. So, we'll be out there in 40-degree weather, 45-degree weather. And that's where, back to that kind of original question, does it take a certain player? Yeah, it does. To be productive in 45-degree weather and understanding how to play well and get the most out of the games during a practice session, it takes somebody specific.
It clearly looks like you guys have the facilities for it, though. If you can handle the weather.
We're trying.
Okay, so when you're working with your players, you have an extensive coaching background. How involved do you like to get with your guys? On the technical side, maybe the mental side, course management. How do you like to work with your guys?
In season is tough, as you well know, John. It's really challenging to go through any sort of technical change and basically implement a pattern change, a movement pattern, a neurological change. So in season, the September Octobers of the academic year, it's typically small tweaks that are performed, and getting people on the right path, and it might be some of those kind of setup features of ball position, kind of alignment that we're working with a lot. It depends on the individual and what kind of spacing of the events. Are there a couple weeks between the tournaments, or is it, we're finishing on a Tuesday and we're back at it that next weekend? So obviously, in those cases, it's pretty much, go with the swing you have, and let's try to figure out how to manage your golf game. And John, college coaching it's a lot about the mental aspect and helping players understand how to strategize and manage their golf games when they're in the situations on the golf course. And a lot of the work that is done during the practice rounds, that's the primary work. We get to events, and it's go time, and it's understanding how the golf course sets up for that individual player and how they can best play it, and understanding where they should where the go zones are, where the kind of the yellow light and maybe green, the red lights are, and where their shots should be placed, and where they shouldn't. And I'm really big on focusing on the positives, which is hard as a player. I know it's easy as a coach, but as a player in the heat of tournament competition, it's usually looking at what they did wrong, and I'm trying to really have focus on the future, the opportunities that might present themselves in the holes that are remaining.
That sounds great. I remember starting college golf and being shocked that practice rounds were taking 5.5 hours. But when you look into all the planning that goes on in a practice round, it's time well spent for sure.
It's a lot, especially when they give you the hole locations prior.
Yep. Awesome. So this has been really helpful. We've talked a lot about what recruits can be doing to get noticed by you. A bunch about the program. What would you say is the one thing that these junior golfers should focus on? If they so bad they want to play at Boston College, what should they be doing? To reach out to you and really express their interest.
I mean, it goes back to kind of your original question. What are we looking for in our recruits? And I mean, there's obviously an academic profile that's necessary for Boston College, because as a coach, and I can tell you, my officer within the admissions office, we're looking for players that can be successful on the golf course while being full-time students, while being successful in the classroom. And it's very important that understanding that junior golfers understand how to manage their academic schedules with all the athletics. Because, and you've heard this and it, John, specifically, and I have this conversation with parents and recruits all the time, that there are three things in college life, and it's if you're a student athlete, it's your athletics. So for us, it's golf, and then you have classroom and academics. Then you have social life, and basically you only can be successful at two of them. So ultimately, you're going to have to, during the season, it's going to be very important to put one of them aside, and it can't be academics and it can't be athletics. So you have to put the social life to the side a little bit. And that's one of the unique things I hear at Boston College, that when we get to the off season, there's a little bit more time for social life. So the players, they can feel like they're students and like one of the other students that they see on their hall or in their dorm, and or in their classrooms, that it's not always wake up, practice, get to class, study, go to bed. I mean, it's not so regimented. They might have a little bit more of a social life. So um, a lot of players come into college understanding that, and from playing AJGAs, playing in maybe some national junior events, playing on national teams, and they're able to do it. But there are quite a few that there's a process and it might take a semester, it might take a year, it might take more. Um, so juniors, as they go through high school and they balance all their classroom activities and academics and also their sports, it's important because a lot of junior golfers, and I have several players on both of my teams who are multi-athlete sports. So they're not just playing golf. They might be playing basketball in the winter. They might be, one of the women on my team she was a 3-sport athlete. So, she was a soccer player, captain of her soccer team, captain of her basketball team, and captain of the boys golf team as well. So, she really learned how to juggle all that stuff and also be a good competitor on the golf course.
Wow, great. Last question. What's one thing a recruit should not do? What's a big turnoff for you in this whole process?
Uh, I would say it might not be the biggest, but when the parents are primarily doing the recruiting for the junior, for their child, it it doesn't show true intent. It's almost like the parent wants the player to go there more than the player does. And sometimes that's a fact. Sometimes maybe the junior just doesn't know how to do it. But if this is college golf, and college in general is the future of that recruit, of that prospective student athlete, they need to be doing the upfront work. They need to be doing everything to get themselves in front of the coach. To make there shouldn't be excuses that if a coach offers them to come on campus for an unofficial visit and maybe their freshman, sophomore, junior year, they should try and make every intention of getting there. The sooner they can get there, whether it's the sophomore, junior year, it's a lot better than waiting, because again, it goes back to how many emails do college coaches get? And you said thousands, and it's right. It's probably per day. I receive probably 6 to 8 per program. So that's 12 to 16 emails that I have to sift through. The kids that I see on campus, I know there's intention. So I'm gonna react and kind of read and scan those emails a little slower and a little more intently, and know that kind of where to put my focus. So I would say make sure the junior golfers, these prospects, do a lot of the recruiting themselves, and kind of leave the parents in the background. Let them get involved maybe a little bit during the visits and let them ask questions. It's not that college coaches don't want to hear from parents. They don't want to just hear from parents.
Okay. So for all the juniors, be proactive, get to campus, shake coach's hand, get to know him, and you'll have his attention a little more. Cool.
All right.
All right, Coach, thanks so much. I really appreciate this. Really helpful. Thanks for your time.
You got it, John.
All right.
I'll
Thanks.
talk to you later.